Entering the Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass Podcast. This for UFC Vegas 9. I'm Paul Shaughnessy, joined in studio by the one and only Cody Saftic, coming off of what, a 7? Only a 7-leg parlay cash last week.
Yeah, well, 1 second left. Eat Chirico. Eat the old Zach Cummins kick to the face. And that cost the plus 2,200. But listen, this is gambling. We know it happens. Good bounces, bad bounces. Ricardo Lamas was looking shaky in that second round. Prevailed. But yeah, sometimes you have to expect the unexpected. We survived last week, and let's make it a streak. Let's make it a thing.
Let's make it a thing. I kind of like this card. But before we get to any of that, Pat's got some announcements. We let Pat do the announcements around here. He's a lot better at it. Housekeeping.
Pat's housekeeping.
Pat?
Yeah, so this is the first of 2 more weeks that the Dogger Pass podcast is going to be on the Pat Mayo Experience audio feed. It will then transition. It will begin this week too. The transitioning has already begun, not only for the feed, but probably for Cody as well. You can see that hair. But at the same time, you can now subscribe to the Dogger Pass podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google. As of right now, this episode will be up there. So what you need to do is hit the description of this video or podcast. You can find the new feed, go sub to that, and then you go leave a 5-star review. You go leave a rating. Everything like that to help boost up the show right out of the gate. That'll do tremendous numbers for the audio podcast, and the video version will continue to be on Mayo Media Network. If people have problems finding this, you just let them know very nicely so they continue to listen to the show, but you can tell them they're a fucking moron too at the same time, because we've been saying this for like a month. But the switch is going to go 2 more weeks. They will appear on both feeds for 2 weeks, and then boom, it is off my feed on the Pat Mayo Experience and on its exclusive Dog or Pass podcast feed for the audio. Again, the video will remain up on the Mayo Media Network. 5 stars, smash like to the episode, comment your comments. That stuff always goes a long way into helping the algorithm to the show so more people can actually find it. I think I've done it. Oh, also listen to the trailer that's up for the Dogger Pass podcast right now, because it is fucking hysterical. One of the main reasons that I'm doing this and Paul's not doing this, you'll discover in the trailer to the Dogger Pass podcast.
I can't
Spoiler alert. I can't read. Yeah, do what Pat just said. And on top of that, there's another like Dogger Pass feed out there that used to belong to us. I just can't remember the password. I'm gonna figure out how to delete it.
But why would it be under Dogger Pass? Shouldn't it be under Bookie Beatdown?
Yeah, it is. The artwork is for Bookie Beatdown, but I think you guys changed the name to Dogger Pass at like the last thing you ever did for it. So it still has the Bookie Beatdown graphic, but it's called Dogger Pass. So there are 2 podcasts named the Dogger Pass podcast. You want the one with the dog on it that has new episodes and has green lettering.
Yeah, the one that has had an episode uploaded in the last 3 years would be the one that you should be going towards.
Or just hit the description, click the link, and it'll bring you right to it.
I'm going to try to find the old password to that, delete it. Yeah. Why don't we get into the action here?
Yeah, sounds good.
We got Alistair Overeem taking on Augusto Sakai. Overeem minus 175. Sakai plus 140. Take it away, Cody.
Yeah, obviously the dog side is the value side, just being that this screams 2 middling heavyweights that are probably going to get tired at some point in there, might take their time, might slow it down a little bit. And you on one hand, you think, geez, 2 heavyweights. Alistair Overeem, former K1 champion, dynamite striker, huge power. On the other end, you got Augusto Sakai, 255-pound Brazilian, likes to swing them hammers. Guy's pretty durable. Maybe this fight's going to be that fun slugfest that you'd want it to be, but styles kind of predicate how this one's going to go. And like Augusto Sakai's not looking for a barn burner of a fight. He's not looking to throw a whole lot of punches. Does he have that kind of power to turn off Overeem's lights? Yeah, I would say so. I mean, at this point, Overeem's been knocked out by many of men.
Almost like 20 times in his career.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, yeah, former 205er was getting knocked out by guys like Chuck Liddell. A huge power puncher, obviously. But yeah, he's just a whole career of knockout losses. And now you're fighting a guy who, again, gigantic heavyweight who packs some punches. Is he a huge power puncher? No. Augustus Sakai's not a huge power puncher. But does he have enough power to land that shot on Overeem? Yeah, absolutely. Now, Walt Harris, he's got that power. He hurts Overeem, and he gets gassed out after the first round. Sakai doesn't really exert himself all that much. That's why you see his fights. They are just slow and trepid pace. Now, he beats Chase Sherman in his UFC debut. This one's notable because he throws over 100 strikes. His cardio checks out in that fight, but going back to what I was saying about he's not a pure clean power puncher himself, he's not a Rosenstruck kind of guy, is that it takes him 3 rounds to take out Chase Sherman. Does take him out, hits him over 100 times. and then to take him out. It's the fight against Andrei Arlovski right after that. He wins a split decision. But you look at any of the media outlets, Sherdog, Bloody Elbow, MMA Junkie, MMA Mania, everybody scores a fight for Andrei Arlovski. Andrei Arlovski outstrikes him every single round in that fight. Now, this is Andrei Arlovski, keep in mind. A mid-pack guy. Where's Sakai's improvements? He's still young. He's a mobile heavyweight. He's at ATT. So everyone writes the excuse, you know what? He's friends with Andrei Arlovski. That's why he didn't want to hit him. They train at ATT together. They're buddies. He doesn't want to swing on him. Okay, fair enough. But then you just look at the body of work since then. The Marcin Tybura fight, he gets him out quick. But the Ivanov fight's just another slow pace. So Overeem's a cleaner striker. Overeem's a better striker. Overeem throws at a higher clip than him. I can see Overeem winning these striking exchanges. The problem with Overeem is that he needs to knock out Sakai, get him out of there. And there is one advantage Sakai has. He's durable. As we've talked about Overeem being knocked out so many times in his career, plus the kickboxing knockout losses as well, Augusto Sakai's never been finished. And he has been in there with some heavy hitters, and he has been hit, and he can kind of take it. So as much as I'm thinking Overeem is the better technical striker, he's 40 years old, taking on a 29-year-old in Sakai, getting better.
It's heavyweight.
It's heavyweight. Anything can happen.
No, but a heavyweight's 40 years old isn't that damning.
Yeah, and 29 is a baby. This guy is amongst the youngest guys in the division. So as much as I can shit on him looking awful against Chai Kongo once upon a time in Bellator, it's like, he was really young. And as much as I can shit on him losing to Andrei Arlovski, it's like, man, this is a guy he probably grew up watching and now trains with and now is kind of friends with and doesn't want to unload on the guy. And beating Ivanov, well, he didn't knock out Ivanov. No, buddy. A knife to the heart did not kill one Blagoy Ivanov. So, true. Yeah, you can write excuses for Sakai. He's definitely a live dog. I think Overeem is not a safe play. I'm looking at the line listed here on the DK Sportsbook line of 175. It just seems like, oh, man, two heavyweights that anything can happen when they get in there. And again, Overeem has just come off 2 fights ago with Rosenstruck. He wins the first round. He wins the second round. He wins the third round. But he just starts getting more desperate and starts throwing less and starts trying to avoid contact and eventually gets hit. With Sakai, it's kind of got the same thing. I can see him winning the first few rounds, but not finishing Augusto Sakai. If he doesn't finish Sakai, Sakai becomes a definite live dog the longer this fight goes. So I was looking at the over 1.5 was listed at 185. Not a great line, but also I think it's going over 1.5. Fight to start round 2 wasn't even a much better price. But I'm looking at least this fight to get a couple rounds in. I don't think it's that first round finish that a lot of people are talking about. Overeem's the kind of guy that if he's savvy enough that if he is going to get clipped, he's going to get clipped late. And he's not the kind of guy to fight like a gunfight anymore. You see him recently.
He picks his spots. He knows he's well aware of what he is not able to do, which is take murderous power punches to the dome.
Yeah, he doesn't mind slowing the fight down with his grappling a little bit now too, but he's not taking Sakai down. So take that off the table. It's like it's going to be him.
You think he can take him down?
I think he could take him down, but Overeem's takedowns are they're like soccer, like a football tackle, sorry. He just football tackles you to the ground, holds you down for the 1 round. Against Rosenstruck, he wins the first round with his takedown. In the second, third round, fourth, anything after that, he barely even bothers going to the takedowns because he just knows he doesn't have the cardio. He's 40 years old. He's got to pace himself accordingly. So if he picks his spots, and Sakai doesn't throw a whole lot to begin with, you got 2 guys that are just going to be staring at each other for long periods of time. That's why I think the over is going to hit on this fight. That's why I think we're going to get a couple rounds in this fight. But, gun to my head straight pick, got to give you a pick, especially on the PRP at the end. I feel like Alistair Overeem is the cleaner, more technical guy. Maybe he's giving up the... He's faster, but he's also 11 years older. So, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe Sakai is a little bit quicker and catches him. I just think that 175 is a bad price tag. The pass is probably the smarter move, but... get some overs on this is I think the profitable move. While
DraftKings Sportsbook should be the #1 place that you go and look for your lines, there are different prices out there if you do a little bit of shopping. So, I mean, I already jumped in on Overeem at -140 the other day. I kind of thought that the line it opened up.
Yeah, no,
it opened up at -200 and then it got steamed down Augusto Sakai is not exactly a murderous power puncher. That's my main concern. Anytime Overeem's been fighting for years. We've talked about probably 20 of his fights on this very program. And my only concern every single time he fights somebody is, can this person turn the lights out? Now it's heavyweight. Anything can happen.
It's his shell-up defense, man. He sits there and he thinks he's Anderson Silva in his prime, and he just sits right back flat against the cage and just tries to shell, and takes a shit kicking almost every time. Most of the time he topples over. Most of the time it's like the Bigfoot Silva fight once upon a time. And just eventually one sneaks through and knocks him out. Walt Harris is this close to putting this guy away. But Walt Harris can't fight for more than 3 minutes. That's the difference.
Fair.
Now, I think Sakai is not Walt Harris. He's not going to come that aggressive. He's not going to go for it. He doesn't have that same power. He doesn't have that same speed or athleticism. But it's 25 minutes. Overeem 3-round fight. Ooh, sign me up. And Overeem by decision 3-round fight. Be a nice plus money
Overeem
price
can go
tag.
5 rounds.
He can go 5 rounds, but the more tired
Sakai
he
went
gets,
5 rounds.
No, it's going to be a slow. I think it's now.
I think
gonna,
you're
they're
over
gonna prove
over
me wrong.
1.5
They're gonna prove me
seems
wrong
like
and
the
knock
smartest
somebody out.
play
But
here.
yeah, that's what I
agree with that.
what I ended up.
I
with.
agree with that. I have some Overeem, but I'll probably add that over at least to some pieces as we go along in this episode. Let's move on to the next one. This was supposed to happen 2 weeks ago, and you picked Alonzo Menifield to be OSP. You were talking about Alonzo Menifield learning experience,
Yeah.
being able to dig deep, having to go 3 rounds when you were failing against Devin Clark. Has anything changed since OSP got pulled off for COVID, false positive? He's back in the mix. No DraftKings pricing for him this week, but minus 135 or minus 134 Menifield, plus 108 St. Preux. Anything's changed?
You know what? This is going to be another sloppy fight. I think both guys match up pretty similar in that they're both physical, but they just lack the gas tank. And we talked about it last time, obviously, with OSP. Like, he's become more of a 1-round fighter. And the later these fighters go, he just doesn't quite seem to have it. Now you can blame that all on the weight cut. This guy's a massive 205er. And he goes to heavyweight, comes in as a pretty thick heavyweight against Ben Rothwell, loses. And then it was a quick turnaround, him dropping down to 205. I thought that'd be the key. Alonzo Menifield had never been past the first round. He'd been 25 seconds into the second, I think. This guy's just not been extended. So at least him going with Devin Clark at least showed he wasn't getting finished. He was trying to fight through. His body just wasn't responding. Now that he's got that experience, to be a little bit better off. I think the smart move is the pass here. But I am going to stick with Menifield. And I think the fight getting rebooked would slightly play out towards Alonzo Menifield. Yeah, his cardio didn't get any better in the 11 days or 17 days that it got shipped for the rebook. But think about if you're OSP. Think about if you're OSP and you walk around at 235, 240, which seems to be his walk-around weight. Now you got to drop down to 205. You just fought a heavyweight. It's a quick turnaround. It was going to be hard on your body to make 205 anyways. So you start the cut and you start the process. And now you're getting close. And now it's a false positive. Botched weight cut. Okay, drink your fluids. Get back ready. In 2 weeks, do the same thing all over again. And I just think that weight cut is what's going to lead to him getting tired after round 1. Now, Menifield, I can almost assure you that Menifield is also going to be tired after round 1. But I think that the mileage favors him, the experience favors OSP, and I feel, or the mileage, like, he's 32 years old, but he just hasn't really been smoked around in there, whereas OSP's had some up and down performances against the top level guys. Maybe experience bites me in the ass. Maybe OSP's got too much. Maybe OSP gets a tired Menifield to the ground and hits him with the Von Preux choke. But I'm kind of leaning towards Menifield, pacing himself a little bit better, controlling the action against the cage, landing the slightly better strikes, and winning either a dicey decision or maybe he does catch OSP. But I'm thinking this fight is not the barn burner again. Same thing as the main event. It seems like good matchmaking on the side. It's like, oh, dude, both these guys like to finish. Both these guys are in entertaining fights. But the way they match up with each other,
If they don't finish each other in
I
the
think it's more of
first
a
round,
stalemate.
things are going to get sloppy.
it's more of a stalemate, right? Whereas other guys, it's like, oh, either OSP finishes him the first round or this guy styles on him 2 and 3. Or him versus the Prince. It's like, it's a 10-8 first round, but then he hits him with the Von Preux in the second. Like, it's those fun 1 or 2 round fights. Menifield showed with Devin Clark, not that he was taking a whole lot of punishment, but it's just like, he'll fight through. Honestly, again, the smart move is a pass. This is a 10-fight card, so you feel like you want some action. I love a lot of these spots a lot better than this co-main event. It getting rebooked just adds another element of question mark on it. But again, the play would be Alonzo Menifield, and I'm looking to take an over in it.
Carl Rosa takes on Sajaro Eubanks, minus 134 Rosa. Eubanks can be had 4+ 110. Who you like here?
Yeah, so with Sahara Eubanks, when you break down pretty much any of her fights, it's like she has a lot of advantages in all these spots. But then what you see physically in the octagon, it's like,
She can do it for 1 round.
yeah, she can do it for 1 round. And at that, does she even look overwhelmingly good in that first round? This is another fighter that deals with cardio issues and deals with weight cut issues and is dealing with, I know you're going to say all ageist, but age issues. She's 35 years old. So I don't know. It's not old.
Always
It's
depresses
not even
me.
old. It's not even old.
I'm 35,
But,
Cody.
yeah, but right. The point is, if I told you, actually, you could probably make...
I'm way past my athletic prime. I know what you're saying.
Fair,
I
fair,
just pretended. It's a gimmick.
Fair. But let's just say it's like if I told you, oh, can you improve on run a mile, and then do it every day for a few months? Can you run a better mile? Absolutely.
Probably,
There's something to be improved on that. But let's say you were a track star back in college.
Wasn't.
You're never going to attain back to that level. It wasn't. You don't say.
No.
Shawarma
played
Marouche was a
football.
famous. Right. Funny story we can't talk about right now, but I accidentally gave Shaughnessy a concussion playing a game of flag football.
You did.
It was two-hand touch.
This dome has been knocked around a whole bunch over the years, let me tell you.
Okay, so anyways, I'm just saying at 35, I don't think that she's going to make improvements. The large issue is the cardio. Her grappling is top-notch. Jiu-Jitsu black belt, Team Lloyd Irvin is top-notch. Her wrestling, not bad. The problem is that she uses a lot of muscle in those takedowns, and she just can't do it for 15 minutes. The striking, it's herky-jerky, man. Like, it's very stiff, it's very rigid. Power, because she's a power fighter, but that's it. Her best advantages were at 125. 125, she was just so big and strong.
Just couldn't make the weight.
At 100, just couldn't make the weight. So now 135 pounds, it's like giving up her main advantage. It's like, okay, you need to just go right to the jiu-jitsu. Get these girls down, use the jiu-jitsu. But without a submission victory, you need to do it for 15 minutes, and she just can't. So looking at the record, Aspen Ladd, that's actually her best performance of date. It was at least she nailed some big old right hands on Aspen Ladd, who just sat there in the pocket, hands down, chin up. Bad performance for Ladd, but good performance for Eubanks. But she loses the fight. It's the Betchkahea fight right after that, where it's like she's just... Here's a tailor-made opponent for you. You can take her to the ground, relatively easy. You have better grappling. As far as the striking goes, she's very hittable.
The only
as well.
advantage Betch has is cardio.
Yeah, she just doesn't stop. She just kind of keeps coming at you. And so Eubanks has a good first round, but then all of a sudden it's like, oh, every judge, all three judges score Eubanks first round. Now all of a sudden, she's getting tired. And Betch is not doing a whole lot, but she just works herself back into the fight. The Sarah Moras fight, another tailor-made fight for her in that Moras can't strike. Moras can't wrestle really. She's a wily grappler. And come on, Eubanks is at the very least not going to get out grappled. And she wins. She wins convincingly enough, but just didn't look great. So now you have her taking on what I would perceive as a more bona fide 135-pounder. Carol Rosa.
In terms of size?
In terms of size, she's only
like
5'6".
5'6".
Yeah. And doesn't appear to be
the
physically...
reach looks pretty similar between the two of them.
Reach and height, same, right? So when you look at Eubanks' career, Eubanks has those good fights at 125, can't quite make 125, fights at 135, doesn't seem to be a fit at 135. Carol Rosa's 12-3. Two of those three losses were at 145 pounds, right? Her last two losses, in fact, because the first one was 2017, the last two ones against Larissa Pacheco and Melissa Gatto are at 145. She's competed at 141, 145, and 135. She has a 12-1 record at 135 pounds. That's where she seems to be way better. So now you look at her UFC numbers, and this girl, through her 2 UFC appearances so far, has just shown a lot to like. And we'll talk about DK later, but UFC debut against Laura Pacheco, 171 significant strikes landed. She also defended 5 takedowns. Now, I mean, come on. Procopio, sorry. I said Pacheco, but Laura Procopio is not the wrestler that Eubanks is. So stuff in the 5 takedowns, not the biggest deal. The Vanessa Mello fight, 120 significant strikes versus 45, scores 2 takedowns of her own and stuffs 2 of Vanessa Mello's takedowns. So now she's stuffed all 7 takedown attempts on her in the UFC. She's thrown 171 and 120, landed. I shouldn't say thrown. She's thrown so much. Lands that much. It's like she doesn't get tired. She's fought at the higher weight class. She's shown some decent wrestling. She just seems a little too physical. So Eubanks could do what Eubanks does and have a good first round. But the pace that'll be set.
She won't be able to keep it.
And if she's 27, 28, I say, you know what? She knows cardio is her issue. Maybe she surprises us and comes in, and that's just what she's been working on the last 6 months. But like, no, I don't think that's something she could address.
Otherwise,
or she would have.
You're relying on a first round women's bantamweight finish.
Right. Now that's the last point. It's like Rosa seems like the play. 135 or it's sitting at 134.
8,500 on DK.
It seems, but
averages 114 points per fight.
Would it shock you if someone like Eubanks snacked up an armbar? No. Would it surprise you in a fight like this if that armbar was to happen in guard?
No.
No. If Eubanks wins the first round, or if she's going to win, it's in the first round. That's when these armbars from guard tend to happen. Like, yeah, and you don't go all the way in on Rosa, but she looks like a nice DK play. At 134, she seems like a nice straight-up play. And even though she put an absolutely massive beating on Procopio and Vanessa Mello, didn't finish either one of them. And Eubanks was that she can take the beating and not get finished. So if you want to chase and maybe try to get some plus money or close to plus money, maybe chase that Rosa by decision and think maybe she loses the first round, wins 2 and 3, picks up the decision, and you get her by decision.
We move on down the card. We got Michel Pereira taking on Zalim Imadaev. -118 Pereira, -103 Imadaev. I mean, Don Cherry back in the day used to say, this is tea time, guys. This is tea time. For all of you people who take MMA a little too seriously and don't understand Michel Pereira, he's an entertainer. He's out there throwing spinning cartwheel kicks and all of that stuff. He went away from that in the Sanchez fight. It was horrible in terms of like the entertainment value. We want this guy.
Yeah, but he looked good, man.
Yeah, I know, but
it wasn't the entertainment value, but like that's what if he does that, he wins. If he does backflips and shit, who knows? But
I mean, watching
me.
Imadaev is hilarious because he's got the look, and you're like, that guy looks like some sort of savage wrestler.
Got the
I mean,
name.
Danny Roberts took him down 3 times. I was just watching the fight just before you came in.
Yeah.
Took him down 3 times. His wrestling wasn't great. He was able to pull a couple switches, I guess. I mean, that's his path to victory here. Take Pereira down, grind him out. Obviously, Pereira, especially when he's fighting at that high motor and throwing spinning helicopter, cartwheel kicks, or whatever the hell you want to call the theatrics that he does. Obviously, that takes a lot of gas out of him. I mean, it's always going to be risky betting on Michel Pereira at all times. I'm just looking for a show. I'm not betting Michel Pereira at this moment. My heart is with Michel Pereira. I hope he wins by spinning wheel kick or whatever. But nothing from Imadaev leads me to believe that this is like too tall a task for Pereira, who I guess he could go back if you want to, you know, if you're not looking for just strict entertainment value, I guess he could go back to fighting like Sanchez, and that's how he's going to win this fight too.
Well, he is so untrustworthy, and not because of the backflips and the just ludicrous crap he does and the questionable weight cutting and the questionable fight IQ. But then he got himself disqualified with an illegal knee against Diego Sanchez just to sting you just a little bit more. It's like, oh no.
When he was up to like 2,
he's up to
like 2 10-8s almost.
10-8s. He's absolutely thrashing Diego, who's getting no advice from his corner. It was just an absolute ridiculous shit show. And the one thing that Diego did was the second that knee hit him, he was just like, ooh, I've seen this go before. I'm a savvy veteran. And that was a savvy veteran move. So I can't hate on Diego. I mean, he's getting thrashed. When he can take a win, you can get a free win, you can get your win money. You take it.
When you tie
Screwed me.
When you tie in the payment as 50% to win, 50% to show. I mean, I don't know what Diego's getting, 75 and 75. Like, are you going to tell him like he just got illegally hit? He doesn't want to go back in. He's been getting killed. He's not going to. If he goes back in, fights for another 2 minutes, he's losing half of his paycheck. I get it.
You know what? What? He's giving it up so that the fans at home, because they were mad, the fans at home could say, you know what? Diego didn't take the easy way out. Diego Sanchez.
He took the easy way out.
Of course he did. But it's so that if he didn't take it, he saves face. So that the people at home could say, oh, wow, he didn't take the easy way out. Diego Sanchez is a warrior. If you watch MMA, and you don't already by this point think that Diego Sanchez is a warrior, you're fucking out of your mind, man.
I wasn't mad at Diego because
he's donated a lot of plasma to the octagon.
Every brain cell.
If he took the easy way out one time, which will likely be his last career win, especially in this organization, he could muster something up somewhere else. Just give it to him, whatever. But going back to Pereira, it's like anytime you bet him, FYI, I'm going to bet him, you have to know what you're getting yourself into.
It's risky biz.
100%. So let's get why we're getting ourselves into. Zalim Imadaev, fool me once. Max Griffin. Shame on me. Fool me twice. Shame on me again. Danny Roberts. It's like, my God. See, Zalim Imadaev is more of the product of hype. Comes to the UFC. He's 6-0. Boxing stylist. 6 foot. Rangy for the weight class, but not thick for the weight class. Not strong for the weight class.
He's got like the Dagestani beard.
I know, but he's from Moscow. Keep that in mind. Yeah, exactly. And everybody in his camp, because he comes to New York, he's working with Mark Henry. He's working with the best guys. And they all call him Zabit 2.0. Now, I don't know a whole lot about him, but I know everything about Zabit. Followed his career all the way through Russia to the UFC. If they're calling him that, and these Russians, they don't fuck around. If they're calling him that, these guys aren't going like, they believe it. They believe this guy's a next level striker. What is Max Griffin, who's a striker as well, going to do against this next level guy that's going to piece him up? Griffin takes him down 6 times. Now, this is extremely problematic because Max Griffin's also, 6'2"? Not a wrestler. Doesn't really have the frame for wrestling. Takes him down at will. When he wasn't taking him down and he was striking with him, he was hanging. This guy, not Zabit 2.0. Zabit can wrestle. Zabit can strike. Zabit's dynamic.
Zabit's good.
Yeah, doesn't have great cardio, but I mean, is a well-accomplished fighter. This guy seemed very one-dimensional, just more of a boxer. But no, like, benefit of the doubt, he's still young, and he's making that transition from being a striker to an MMA fighter. UFC jitters, and whatever. It was a majority decision, so one guy even had a draw. I don't understand. But we get the Danny Roberts fight. And then the Danny Roberts fight, it's like, again, he starts off okay. He looks like he's got some skill. Looks like there's something that can be worked there, but then just absolutely dynamite caught, just banged.
And he was honestly in the corner after round 1. He's breathing heavy.
I agree.
I don't if he decides to go to that wrestling game plan, I don't think he has 3-round cardio. Now, that being said, Michel Pereira, when we got to round 3 against Diego Sanchez, was also quite gassed.
Well, so there's the thing. So now you look back at it's like, okay, Danny Roberts had just like an awful run of luck in the UFC prior to cashing big with the Lima Imadaev fight. In fact, not really known for his power punching abilities, but he caught him clean. Michel Pereira, anytime you fight him, you're just dealing with TNT, baby. Like he's so explosive. The best underdog hit I've hit still since. I haven't hit a better one since. Tristan Connolly plus 425 over Michel Pereira. Like he's gonna last that first round. Michel Pereira doesn't have good cardio. Tristan Connolly will work his way through. He gets the win. But two things important in that fight is that one, the flying knee in the first round that misses Connolly's face by about 3 inches would have KO'd him flat clean. That could easily be a win by decision for Connolly or a knockout victory for Pereira. Again, you're dealing with just crazy variables when you have a guy like that. But the other notable thing here is he missed weight in that fight, 172 pounds. Claims it was a bad weight cut. That's what this is going to come down to. So be a little bit aware. Watch the weigh-ins. Pereira's fought in Korea at 220. He used to fight in open weight fights. He's fought at 205. He's fought at 185. And by the way, even though he's not the tallest guy at those weight classes, you don't look out of place. At 170, this guy is gigantic. Now, if he wants to do flips and he wants to do bozo bullshit, fight math. Remember when he fought Danny Roberts? Wasn't even competitive. Danny Roberts got smoked before he even knew what was happening in that fight. And Zelim Imadaev, meanwhile, struggles with Danny Roberts and gets caught by him. MMA math would suggest Pereira's got it. But beyond that, it's just like he seems like he's too strong, too physical. Knocking him out is a task. So Zelim Imadaev's best weapon was just catching this guy when he's being a buffoon. He can take a pretty good chin. You're going to have to beat him for 3 rounds. And as we just mentioned, not really known as a 3-round guy. In the Diego Sanchez fight, he paced himself. He fought a smarter game plan, and he thrashed Diego Sanchez. Had he not kneed him in the head, he would have won. Now, if he fights the exact same way he did against Sanchez, he wins this fight easy. But he's already gone on record being like, that was a bullshit fight. I'm going back to the theatrics. It's like,
I kind of want.
Right. That's what Paul wants.
If
I
bet him,
that's
I
not what my
kind of want him to
parlays
go back
want.
to what you were saying.
That's
earlier.
not what my bank wants.
Probably
He's
not.
got all the skills to beat Imadaev. And the main thing it's going to come down to is physicality. This guy's strong. He's a very strong, powerful guy. Imadaev is not going to be able to back him up. He'll be the one counter-punching off his back foot. Counter-punching off his back foot, he's going to need that stinging power, which he hasn't shown. So the line's looking pretty good for Pereira because there's the built-in apple pie shit factor already priced in for you, right? This guy could absolutely ruin your night. You need to play him sparingly or in certain spots. The 8,200 on DraftKings, if you're playing multiple lineups, don't look me in the eyes and tell me he ain't on one of them. Because, he's just the absolute kind of dynamic guy. And so,
first round finish.
Yeah, you have a case of a guy
He'll be
that
going
seems talented, has skills, but just is his own worst enemy versus a guy in Imadaev that was talked up big. And how many prospects have we seen this year talked up big, don't quite show in the UFC? He hasn't shown in the UFC. I would have to say that Pereira. But again, your last piece is watch the weigh-ins. Pereira misses weight, that's different. Because then, if he's doing backflips, I don't know, he's just going to gas it a lot faster. If he makes weight, he looks good, he seems confident. Obviously, the idiot's going to be doing backflips at weigh-ins and stuff because it's just who he is. If he looks good, then yeah, I'm liking that line.
We got Thiago Moises taking on Jalen Turner. Moises, a minus 195 favorite. Turner plus 160. Turner's got like all of the intent, or in terms of like the physicality, he's got all of the advantages here. 7-inch reach advantage. Guy's 6'3", just super massive for the weight class. Like crazy how he even makes the weight class. He's super, super large. I think he's outgunned in just about every facet of the game except for striking power, though. The question becomes with like any of these like BJJ guys is how do they get it to the mat? And that is my biggest concern with Thiago Moises. I don't really see much of a wrestling game. May not take much to take Jalen Turner down, but I think if he gets it there, he's going to have a massive advantage. I haven't really made a decision on what to do with this one. No bet from me as of this moment, but what are your thoughts?
It's dogger pass. You could take the pass. It wouldn't be a worse play. There's just too much of a price on Thiago Moises at minus 195. He's got the advantages in that he can wrestle. He can get this fight to the ground. And if he does get this fight to the ground, as long and lanky as Jalen Turner is, as you mentioned, 6'3", he's got the long limbs. He can throw arm bars. He can throw up triangles. Moises is not getting caught from Turner off his back. He can just easily take this fight down there, and that's his wheelhouse. The problem with Thiago Moises is sometimes he's a little bit of a slow starter to actually initiate that game plan. And in such, you can actually beat this guy to the punch and hurt him early. The Michael Johnson fight is last time out. I mean, yeah, we'll remember him from getting that sweet ankle lock win. But outside of that, the first round, he made Michael Johnson look like 2012 Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson was looking like prime Michael Johnson.
I bet Michael Johnson, like after round one, minus 125, and thought I was stealing from them. It took like 10 seconds, and
did Michael Johnson try to like run the fight, or they were like, oh, it's not going to be a 3-round fight, it's not going to be a 5-round fight, let's do a 4-round fight. And after 20 seconons, was like, oh, my hamstring, I can't run anymore. And then Donovan Bailey called him a chicken.
Exactly. Great American hero. Michael Johnson's been having all types of struggles recently. But I mean, we do know that he's a talented striker and that he can defeat you in striking until he blows it for himself. He's making Thiago Moises look bad in there. Mm-hmm. He's beating him to the punch. He's a superior striker. He makes the mistake. Because we always talk about Johnson can wrestle. He wrestled in junior college, NAIA. I don't even know if he's an All-American. It might have been. But as far as like the UFC goes, like guys that have wanted to take him down have almost every time
I remember when people said
succeeded
that, like,
in taking him down.
Which fight was it? Was it against Khabib?
Yeah, Johnson. Yeah.
I mean, people were like, "Well, he wrestled in college." I'm like, guys, there's levels to this game.
I remember they were also like, "Dude, he wobbled Khabib," and you're like, de-glanced him with a good shot. Come on. I remember you were right off the bat. You were like, "Yeah." People were saying he like stiff-legged him. You're like, "No, rewatch it." No, he hit him. It's a fight.
Sorry, I should stop. It's been so long since Khabib has fought that I had to bring him up there.
Yeah, so I felt like he look great in that fight, and then all of a sudden he hits the ground, he gets the ankle lock, he submits Michael Johnson. It's a nice little win for him. Prior to that, as far as the UFC goes, he hasn't looked all that great. He's getting at the highest level. He's getting out grappled by the better grapplers, like a guy like Beneil Dariush. And the striking level, he's getting out struck by the better strikers. He's still only 25. He's at American Top Team. This figures to be a good prospect that can continuously get bigger and make improvements. But I also feel the same way about Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner is just super green. Like, he just didn't really have the experience level. Again, he's also 25. And you're 6'3". It's like, it's going to take you a while to figure it out, right? Like a Neil Magny. He starts out and he's like, man, what do you do with all this length? But by the end, it's just like, oh man, I can do this. I can do that. You make your gifts work for you, right? I feel like Jalen Turner is going to turn the corner at some point. I just don't know fully when. But as far as his UFC career goes, he takes a short notice fight against Vicente Luque. That's a lose-lose. And he loses. Kalen Potter, it's a lose-lose because even beating him in spectacular fashion. Yeah, and he did in 53 seconds. But it just doesn't do anything for you, right? The Matt Frevola fight, that would be a nice little win, but Frevola's got that style. He can grind on you. He's got better pace. He breaks him down. That's the learning experience here, is that he got grounded by Frevola. He kind of knows how that is. He lasted against a talented grappler and a far better wrestler than Thiago Moises in the steamroller Frevola. So maybe he's got that going for him. Then in his last fight, obviously, he shows improvements are being made, but it's low-level competition. So I have trouble gauging Jalen Turner. Is this a legit prospect? If he fights mid to upper mid-level, let's say, echelon guys, can he hang with them? He looks good against low-level. The guys that he's lost to, Vicente Luque and Frevola, not a bad resume.
The guys he's beat, though, are maybe the bottom of the barrel.
Absolutely. And Moises is not the bottom of the barrel. No. This guy's got skills everywhere. He's fought good guys. He's given a good account of himself. He's a former RFA champion. He's fought 5 rounds a few times. There's a lot to like about Thiago Moises. I just don't like that minus 195 price tag. Because I feel like if Turner is able to keep the fight standing, keep it to the outside, he could just chip away at him. But as much as 160 seems like a nice little dog play, I'd like to go at Turner, it's not quite enough for me. So I feel like this is another pass situation. But for me, I would say more of a dogger pass. That hurts me. I'm a Moises fan. I almost always bet Moises. But I got a bad feeling about this. And the price tag is an indication of, yeah, that feeling's, it's off. Something's off.
We have Bartosz Fabinski taking on Andre Muniz. Bartosz Fabinski, minus 150 favorite. Muniz can be had for plus 120. Watched a little bit of Muniz before we came in here. I watched his Contender Series fight. I mean, I forget the name of the guy.
Johnson? Taylor Johnson? Yeah.
Taylor Johnson.
Right.
I mean, Taylor Johnson takes him down like right off the hop. And I was just like, I'm going to be putting so much money on Bartosz Fabinski. Bartosz has a great chin. The pace, the wrestling. I mean, the guy has been a freaking printing press for us on this program. We seem to have a pretty good understanding of what he can and what he can't do. He does get caught. He has 2 submission losses to his credit. I know Muniz, pretty good grappler. But you end up on your back against Fabinski most of the time. He's just going to ride it out from that guard. Just throw a couple shots here and there just so he doesn't get stood back up. Next round starts back up. We go back and back and back. He sticks to the game plan. That's what I like from a guy. I know that he's a 170-pounder. This is 185 pounds. Height, reach, everything's pretty close between the two of them. I think Fabinski's giving up a little bit of size. That doesn't concern me all that much because, I mean, it's a wrestling game. Being a wrestler, getting lower, having the lower center of gravity is pretty beneficial. Could he get caught in a submission against Muniz? Yes. Pereira did catch him in a guillotine. That guy's just got like superhuman strength. You get your neck caught in there, he's going to rip your head off, basically.
Fact.
Tell me why I shouldn't be. I already threw some cash. I'm not going to lie. I already threw some cash at Bartosz.
Bartosz is our guy.
He's
and
our
you
guy.
you got the feeling that it ain't going to get no better than minus 150.
Yeah.
So the time now is to get on it.
Let's get out. I'm going to get more.
The guy has been very profitable for us. And above all else, a lot of people say, wowza, this guy's boring. But it's like winning money is never boring and could never be perceived as boring. And Bartosz does not do anything to put himself in harm's way. He takes the safe path every time. Walk in, take you down, hold you down. Doesn't care about passing guard. Doesn't care about getting on top of you in a more advantageous position. Just cares about holding you down, securing you down there, pounding away. If they were to stand it up, he'd just take you back down. He cannot strike. He's extremely stiff and rigid. And he, unlike a lot of fighters, knows that, man, and he does not bother to strike. He might strike long enough to throw 2 punches to close the distance and take you down. That is an extremely grueling game plan. That's the kind of thing that most guys are not able to do. But Bartosz doesn't seem to fatigue. He never seems to fatigue. And now he's 34 years old, and he was coming off a 2-year-long layoff against Darren Stewart. Now, here's the key too here, Paul, right? 2-year-long layoff. That's bad for anybody. Absolutely. 32 to 34. Geez, I always talk about, hey, those are crucial years. How could Bartosz come back even better? And some bitch moves up a weight class to 185 pounds, weighs in at 181, and is an underdog to Darren Stewart. And hey, we did a show with Pat, right? Bartosz gonna Bartosz. When you have the strength of a 205-pound man, you can fight at 185 because you're still the strongest guy in the fight. And that's Bartosz's thing. Was he abnormally strong at 170? Sure. But now that he's a little bit older, he's probably having trouble cutting the weight. And because he's a guy that just goes, I want his body in good shape. Yeah. So let him fight at 185. Yeah, I'm fine. As long as he's not fighting these giant monster guys, and I don't think that Andre Muniz fits that profile, I think that he's able to just do what he does, and that's get on top of you and grind you out. Now, I 100% hear what you're saying. Bartosz does have 2 of his 3 losses coming by way of submission. Muniz looks like an opportunistic grappler. He's got a lot of wins by submission. But the things to notice here is that with Bartosz Fabinski, the fight against Michel Prazeres?
Michel Prazeres, yeah.
Yeah, the fight with Prazeres, he gets rocked. He gets hit with an overhand, and as he's thinking about that overhand, the guillotine's just slapped on right away. Is he knocked out? No. Does he taps? And right away, he's just like, oh, shit. The guy has a good chin, but he had to get rocked in order to give up that quick guillotine. So I don't think Muniz rocks him. I don't think Muniz just gets that quick position where he's able to throw on the submission. I think Bartosz just goes in there and does what he does. Now, every time we bet Bartosz, we bet him by decision because he just doesn't really try to finish the fight. He just grinds you, and that's his path to victory. So Bartosz 150, and you would take him by decision. It seems like a price just too good to be true. And maybe that's him moving up weight class. Who knows? All these different things. But he's been so good to me over the past that it's just like, I get it. You can tape study this guy and say he's limited. You could tape study this guy and say he's very one-dimensional, but he makes that one dimension work. And the UFC's got 2 options. They can either give him a top contender that'll beat him and then get him out of the UFC, cut him. He does nothing for you. All he does is just lay and pray these guys. They want to get rid of him. Or I don't want to really risk Bartosz fighting a top guy because he might just do the exact same thing to them and make the guy look foolish. So they just give him these middling fights, and he shines in middling fights. So I got Bartosz Fabinski minus 150. I got I mean, that's our DK price line. But I got Bartosz Fabinski to win the fight, and I got Bartosz Fabinski by decision. And for that matter, I don't got fight go to decision because if Bartosz does lose, it's by the submission. So if it was a hedge situation, I don't know that you just take it to go decision, but I got him winning specifically by decision. Bartosz is my boy, so hopefully he doesn't let us down here. But he's been good. So.
I just unloaded while you were breaking that down. I just unloaded more on Bartosz.
Hopefully he does for us what he always does.
From what I saw from Muniz, especially in that Johnson fight, the Dana White Contender Series, this is a guy who is openly letting his opponent take him down. He's fighting Bartosz Fabinski. That's all Bartosz wants to do. He's just going to hang out in your guard.
The other thing with Muniz is that he had won that Contender Series fight, but I remember then he got matched up with Antonio Arroyo. Now Arroyo was another Contender Series guy, won a Contender Series Brazil, comes over, and when I tape studied that one, Arroyo had like significant striking advantage. Muniz couldn't strike for nothing. He was very rigid as well, but he just had this grappling. And in the fight, I mean, like Arroyo just did nothing. Muniz had the fight exactly where he wanted, when he wanted. Looked better than I thought he would. Arroyo looked worse than I thought he would. But against Bartosz, it's like it's very hard to look good because he doesn't give you that room.
He's relentless. He won't tire.
Yeah. Now you can make the argument of like, well, he's moved up the weight class, but it's like he's just so strong. He weighed at 181 against Stewart. He's 5 pounds under the limit.
And he dominated that fight pillar to post.
Dominated.
That was the beginning of COVID.
That was right at the beginning
Cage
of COVID.
Warriors card.
That was good. That got us some COVID money to get started. So that was the beginning of the hot streak.
Yeah.
But yeah, beginning of the hot streak started with Bartosz Fabinski. I'm rolling him and hope that hot streak is not going anywhere.
Go Bartosz. We got Viviane Araujo taking on Montana De La Rosa. Viviane can be had for -177. Montana De La Rosa plus 140. What's your take here?
So this is an interesting fight, being that Viviane Arroyo, she's got the striking advantage. Montana De Rosa has the grappling advantage. Montana De Rosa gets this fight to the ground, and she's got better pace in her. Like Viviane Arroyo's, her cardio is just not great. She tends to tire the later fight goes. Maybe that's from the output. Maybe that's from the power she throws into her strikes. But she's more of like a good first round, starts to tire in the second round. Needs to hopefully have 2 rounds in the bank at this point because she's not going to win that third. Montana De Rosa, kind of the opposite. She's got good cardio. She can push it. But her best game is her top control. She's get on top of you, threaten with submissions, threaten with some ground and pound. That's her best game. Even though she did wrestle collegiately, it's just not enough. And as far as the UFC looks, like I don't know what
it doesn't look very effective, the wrestling that I've seen from her.
That's going to be her main problem is that obviously her husband's Mark De La Rosa, right? BJJ black belt, also fights in the UFC, and that's her game. She's got the BJJ, apparently enough wrestling to get the fight at the ground. But her wins in the UFC, Christina Marks, Rachel Ostovich, Nadia Cossum surprisingly still has a job, but just pulled out of a fight recently. So I know. Lost to Andrea Lee, who still is contracted with, lost that fight. Is still in the UFC. And Andrea Lee is not looking good. And in that fight, she just couldn't get the fight to the ground, right? Can't get the fight to the ground, can't strike with Lee. That kind of becomes a problem.
Her striking is very limited, and
it's very limited, so she has to rely on her top game. That's her go-to, submission attack with her top game. But you got to get the fight to the ground. So now with Vivi Pereira, it's like, well, can she wrestle? It's like, I'll tell you something. Maybe she can, maybe she can't. But she's 5'4", and she's stuffed all 8 takedown attempts that she's faced in the UFC. Because you and I used to talk about it all the time. She's so short. She's short. She's powerful. She's strong. She's hard to get down. So at best case, De La Rosa is going to struggle to take her down until Viviane tires. Once Viviane tires, then maybe she does get her to the ground. Maybe she can win that third round. But up until that point, I got Pereira. And Pereira's just got the better striking. She's got more output. She's got... Araujo. Yeah, my bad. Araujo's just got the cleaner striking, more output. I think she's a little more physical. Keep the fight standing, rounds 1 and 2, outstrike her, and then it's going to be that third round. If you look, again, when we just talked about the 4 wins that De La Rosa has in the UFC, she's 4-1 in the UFC. Geez, that doesn't seem too bad. The 4 wins, just very low level. The 1 loss to somebody okay. Viviane Arroyo, meanwhile, she's been matched up with some high-end fighters. Toledo Bernardo, where that is not a high-end fight. She's up 2 weight classes. She moves up 2 weight classes with that fight. Alexis Davis, former contender, former Strikeforce veteran, someone who's savvy, looks good against her. And then with Jessica Ai's got good cardio. Jessica Ai's got decent striking.
She may get a lot of hate, but she's a title I mean, it's not much of a division, but title challenger.
She's a title challenger. She's a perennial top contender. Has hung out.
Former Bellator champion.
Former Invicta champion. Hung out at. She was at 135 pounds in the UFC and gave a good account of herself down there. Drops down to 125 to get that title fight. Like, she's always been right there. A loss to her is not that big of a deal. Viviane doesn't look bad in the early goings, but now you got someone with that world class experience who can strike with you. De La Rosa can't strike with you. Has the cardio to keep this fight standing and beat you up over 15 minutes, which is like she could easily go up 2 here and then fade. So I would have Pereira. Again, I don't love betting these WMMA spots.
Armbar from Guard Live here.
I think they're both listed as black belts, as though, again, I find that hard to believe.
Shouldn't happen.
No, it shouldn't happen, but it does all the time. So completely possible that it happens. And yeah, I would say Araujo is the pick. I would like to say Araujo by decision as well.
All right, we got Alexander Romanov making his promotional debut against Marcos Rogerio de Lima. -112 for both of these fellas. I watched some Alexander Romanov. Now, this guy does not look like an Adonis. He's fat.
Oh, man, he's thick.
Sloppy. He's got good cardio.
I know.
The guy just keeps coming forward. I don't know, like, in terms of the level of competition that he's been facing, I don't know if he's taken a really good hit. And I expect Marcos Rogerio de Lima to at least crack him a couple times early on. If he can get out of the first, 3 minutes against Marcos Rogerio de Lima, he's going to get on top of him. He's going to pound him, wear him down. I kind of... For a big, sloppy, middle-of-the-rung kind of heavyweight, I think you can do a lot worse than this Romanov guy. Rogerio de Lima, I mean, this guy was a light heavyweight. That's where he probably had physical advantages over top. Now he just kind of looks bloated. He's 257 pounds, but, he just basically was just 205, now I'll just put on 50 pounds. He didn't really seemingly put on any sort of strength. Pull up his record here.
No, yeah.
Look at the wins that Marcos Rogerio de Lima has had in his career.
Yeah. Well, you start off with Richardson Moreira, Igor Prokhyat, Clint Hester, Jeremy Kimball. Oof, I don't even want to talk about that. What? Adam Wazorek. And Ben Sassoli should 100% get done.
He will.
But in the current climate of the UFC,
he doesn't have a win over anybody
could potentially be booked on this card.
Yeah. In the current climate of the heavyweight division in the UFC in COVID times, of course, Ben Sassoli still has a job. But literally everybody that this guy has ever beaten inside the UFC doesn't belong at this level. I don't know if Alexander Romanov is some sort of guy who's going to have the staying power, but from what I've seen looking through a couple of his fights, as soon as I saw him walking in the first time, I was like, oh God, maybe Marcos Rogerio de Lima has a chance here. But I think this guy, he seems to be getting better every single fight. The grappling looks pretty good. And once he gets on top, if he gets on top of de Lima, wears him down the way I've seen him wear down his other opponents, de Lima's going to have nothing in round 2. It's just he's got to survive the first 2.5 minutes. So maybe it's a better live opportunity. Make sure that Alexander doesn't get absolutely clipped, finished early on. Then you didn't lose anything by making an early investment. But if we can get through the first 2.5, 3 minutes, I think Romanov absolutely cruises here from what I've seen on tape. What about you?
I don't even know if it goes through 3 minutes, but I got Romanov for sure. Romanov looks fun, man. Absolutely. We'll talk about Rogerio de Lima and why you should always look at fading his ass. But yeah, let's just talk about Romanov because at least he got the look of a kind of a fun, gotta call him a prospect, at least a fun addition to the UFC's heavyweight division. He's already 29. From the background I got on the guy, he was a decent Moldovan amateur wrestler. I mean, wrestled in the amateurs, pretty good apparently, strong guy, big guy, agile, good cardio. Okay, not bad. Geez, who pays in amateur wrestling? So he gets into sumo wrestling, right? I think he attained the rank of Rikishi. And, oh boy, he's big. Those years of his life, he don't look in great physical shape, but that is the life of a sumo wrestler. And so he sumo wrestles till about 2016. Now he's 25 years old. out of that.
Probably
comes
found
to,
a girl. Let's get a little bit trimmer. Let's tighten things up.
Yeah, tightens up. The fact that he
Tightens
can
it
make
up to 265.
Yeah, cuts to 265, by the
Yeah.
way. He's always tipping the scales. And then just comes to MMA, and it's just like, oh boy, like he looks all right. First of all, as far as just like his wrestling pedigree goes, okay, well, he wrestled as an amateur. He knows how to wrestle. He's competent. Sumo wrestling, not exactly the most sound base for MMA, I would say, but there's at least stuff that you can take away of it. It's all balance. It's all balance. And how many big boys has this guy mixed it up with? How many times has he had to move the larger man? How many times have you got a big guy wearing on you? It's tiring, right? Rogerio de Lima wearing on him ain't gonna be shit. Him wearing on Rogerio de Lima is gonna be everything. Okay, well, Cody, the guy he's a sumo wrestler. Maybe he can get him to the ground somehow and use some ground and pound. But he's going to get melted by Rogerio de Lima's massive overhand right, which has got some real deal power. Even though he's not really a heavyweight, this guy, he's got some real deal power in that right hand.
He swings
Romanov
bricks.
could definitely get clipped by this thing and get knocked out. Romanov striking, not that bad. Southpaw, opportunistic, likes to just move and throw.
He likes throwing like weird kicks and stuff too, because I think he's so confident in his grappling ability that he's just like, if I fall to my back, like these guys aren't going to follow me to the ground.
Right. And so when he debuts, it's just like, man, what's this guy doing? He's beating cans, and it's the typical 40 seconds, 50 seconds, 43 seconds, first round, 48 seconds, 301. It's like, oh, dude, as soon as he gets extended a little bit, he's done. So I wanted to see specifically, what's this guy look like later? Get the Sultan Murtazaliev fight, right?
Murtazaliev. I watched that fight.
And he gets taken down by him. He gets taken down, and right away it's just like, oh, how the hell is this guy going to get off his back? It's like no problem. He just switches up to a hip and powers his way back up. He's strong. He has technique. But it's just like he just wears on the guy. And in the first round, he's using his striking a lot more. 2 and 3, he realizes, I'll just take him down and pound him. And you just know those thudding short shots just smash this guy into oblivion. So does he have any notable on his record? Well, Alexander Stolyakov, 20-5 record, not that impressive, smokes him out of there. Virgil Zwicker, the Res Dog, is no joke. Big heavyweight, Strikeforce veteran, guy comes to play, man. Guy comes to throw, man. He blew through him. But again, it's all first round finishes. That, seeing him go to the third, seeing him do that, I like it. And then he follows that up by slamming Sergio Freitas on his face with a slam, KO, and then takes a year off. So I would assume that the way his career trajectory was, it was going up, baby. This guy was looking good.
Yeah, every
He's
fight
making
I watched, because
improvements.
I watched like his last 3 fights. Every fight I watched, I was like, this guy looks like he's making big time improvements.
Now, if you're the UFC, this guy's fun, man. He's got a fun little record. He's undefeated, 10-0, right? He's beaten some okay guys. Maybe we can, I don't know, pander him to the Eastern European market. I don't know what the plan is. But you could sell this guy anywhere because he's a former 265-pound sumo wrestler. It's marketable. Okay. What's the problem with him? Well, if he gets extended, even though we've seen him go to the third round, if he gets extended, he might be fucked. It's like, let's give him someone who can't physically extend him past the first round. And we either know if he's legit or not. If he gets diced in the first round, this guy's not a top prospect. This guy's not all that good. If he gets out of the first round, he's not going to just get tired and have some cardio machine style on him. Not that there's any real cardio machines at heavyweight. His
Not
gas
until
tank,
you get into the top 5.
his gas tank looks to be better than a lot of the guys we've already seen, but he hasn't
Yeah.
been fighting the same level.
No.
So this should be his coming out party. So as far as Romanov goes, I like a Romanov. Now as far as Marcos Rogerio de Lima goes, it goes right back to you said. This is a guy that fought at 205 and didn't seem he was strong, he was physical, but he wasn't shredded up. He wasn't ripped. He always kind of seemed like maybe he could lose a little bit of weight. When he came up to heavyweight, it wasn't just he had fought a heavyweight before, 235. That's a small heavyweight. Him moving up to heavyweight, he'd be a small heavyweight again. Only this time, he 255. In fact, he comes in against Adam Razork as his heavyweight debut. He's 253. Next time out against Stefan Struve, 255. And against Ben Sassoli, 257. Getting a little bit bigger every time. He's 35 years old. He's been fighting a long time. And again, another Strikeforce veteran fought Mike Kyle back in the day. Remember that fight? He was the favorite, and he lost. Because he was coming off of the win over Palafilo, which at the time was a crazy fucking feat. Not so much in hindsight. But what I'm saying is that Rogerio de Lima's had his best day. Now he can't cut the weight, doesn't really want to cut the weight. He's there to just throw hams for 3 minutes. It works against Ben Sassoli. It works against some of those other guys we talked about who are...
And
But Romanov, maybe he's not ready for this. Maybe he's not as a UFC fighter. But it's like, I think he's got enough to win this fight and then hopefully give us a good indication of what he can do. But I got Romanov, and this is another fight that's priced pretty fucking good. Minus 112, which I won't get into, but because it's on both sides. But yeah, no, I think if you're going to call it an even money fight, then I want the side of Romanov. And they're not going to give his dog money, so this is as good as we're going to get.
Hunter Azure takes on Cole Smith, -210 Azure, +165 Smith. Any thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, Hunter Azure, the tale of two fighters. If he goes in there and uses his wrestling, I can't see why this guy can't win. If he goes in and tries to just throw everything with the kitchen sink like he did against Brian Kelleher, he's gonna. Yeah. I honestly didn't think he had a suspect gas tank because he goes out there and wrestling is tiring, and he just chain wrestles with the best of them, man. Now, when I say the best of them, Contender Series, he beats Crick Oakham, but the wrestling looks good. Now he takes Brad Katona. I like Brad Katona. Brad Katona is a good litmus test. He's got skills everywhere, but his one deficiency is his takedown defense. And he just, that's the move. Play right into it. Now with the Brian Kelleher fight, literally, everybody's saying the same thing. He tends to leave his neck out a little bit on that blast double. And Kelleher got a nasty little guillotine choke. So maybe that's why he opts not to shoot. But his striking looks on point. It's sharp. It's accurate. He stings Kelleher a couple times. And then 3 minutes in, uh-oh. I think when you wrestle your whole life, when you spend all that time wrestling, it's new muscle, right? It's new. That's why you see these guys. Dude, he wrestled in college. He won the national title. He wrestled 16 guys. Like, it's a grinding schedule. And yet they throw punches for a few rounds and they tire out. It's just a different muscle. That kind of
maybe you can give him a bit of a pass with it being that was kind of earlier on in COVID. Maybe your training routine is not up to snuff. I imagine more of these guys are getting a little bit more back to normal. Maybe not all gyms are open. A lot of gyms are probably still closed, but I imagine the training situation is a lot more closer to normal than it was 3 months ago when they fought.
Yeah, well, could be, definitely. It's closer to the situation. I think there was a lot of talks when COVID first happened. Everyone's taking it super seriously. You can't go to the gym. Now you just go to Instagram, and it's like, it looks like things are pre-COVID times. So, I don't know.
They're MMA fighters.
Yeah, it could be. Another thing with Hunter Azure, is that it has looked good so far. The fight with Kelleher, it's at 145. They're both bantamweights. They both take the fight at 145. A lot of times you think moving up a weight class gives you more cardio. In his case, it just didn't. I don't know for whatever the reason. But Kelleher hits him and melts him bad. He's out. And that fight's 4 months ago. Does the guy got a great chin? I don't know. But at least what he's got going here against Cole Smith is like, Cole Smith hasn't really shown any degree of striking power. He's a good grappler as well. He's a decent wrestler. His best game would obviously try to get that top control and establish that. But so far as his UFC run goes, the Mitch Gagnon fight, it's close. It's going back and forth. The problem is that Mitch hadn't fought in a few years and doesn't have a great gas tank. And Cole Smith's always in shape. Cole Smith it comes down to the third round, and Cole Smith beats him in the third round. Good little win. The Miles Johns fight, he showed against glimpses, took his back, his grappling. As I mentioned, he's got good grappling. He can try to win the fight that way, but ends up on the wrong side of a split decision, a close split decision. This fight with Azure seems like, hey, man, it's easier than Miles Johns, but Miles Johns is the superior wrestler, superior athlete, a little faster, a little bit crisper. Azure's got those advantages too. I don't like 210 because he just shit in the apple pie his last time he fought. I liked him a lot against Kelleher, and he got caught. It is what it is. Against Cole Smith, could happen again. 210, not the greatest price tag, but that's because it got steamed up. It opened a lot better than this. People are wise to Hunter Azure. Should be the favorite. Bet on Azure already. And as a result, it's 210. I don't disagree with it. I would take Azure, and I would take Azure by decision. Especially by decision because, one, Cole Smith, very durable. But also with Azure, because he blew his load so quick with those punching combinations early in the first fight, I think this time he tries to pace himself a little bit. Use that wrestling. Hold him down. Secure position. Don't put yourself into a submission. And pick up a decision. So I got Azure. I got the fight going the distance. I got Azure by decision.
And finally, we were just talking about Brian Boom Kelleher takes on Kevin Natividad. Is that how I pronounce it?
Navidad. Feliz Navidad.
That's not Navidad.
Feliz Navidad. Isn't that how it's spelled?
No.
Pat, give me a fact check on that. If not, I'm going to feel real bad for Kevin.
Natividad.
I think you're talking about like fucking Peter Nedved over here.
Well, I thought his name was Kevin Christmas, translated, but apparently it's not. So, is that what Feliz Navidad is? Merry Christmas?
Yes, that is Merry Christmas.
So, Feliz would be Merry, and Navidad would be Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's not Ivy's dad.
Or maybe I'm wrong. Either way, who you got here?
Yeah, I got to go with Brian Kelleher. I mean, listen, whenever you get a short notice replacement, unless it's this guy that's been waiting in the wings for his opportunity and he's going to look good, something to look at, then great. But Brian Kelleher, in all rights and reason, is getting ready for Ricky Simon. And that's just like one hell of a task, man. I mean, Ricky Simon is just very, very strong, very, very physical. He's got the wrestling advantage. And yeah, could Kelleher catch him? Sure. Could Kelleher slap on that guillotine choke? Yeah, I guess. Sure. Maybe he can beat. But Simon is a tough opponent. Now you got Kevin Natividad coming in, making his UFC debut. It's just, again, he hasn't really fought to this level. His wins as far as the regional scene goes, he's beaten Erwin Rivera, who now fights in the UFC. That was a majority decision. And outside of that, it's been a lot of mid-level guys. He just fought recently for LFA. Looked all right. Looks like he's got some sting to him. Brian Kelleher has fought a lot of risky fights. You know, he strikes in the pocket. This is a guy that stood right in the pocket with John Lineker. Why? I don't know. But he did. And he likes to scramble and he likes to go for it. And he's a bantamweight, but he's campaigning as a featherweight now because he won his last fight. In a fight, he was getting absolutely dominated in the first round. And he catches Azure in the second. Now he wants to stay at 45. He's going to get beat by a lesser talent, an unknown talent. This could be that lesser unknown talent. Kelleher fights very risky. He's the kind of guy I like at 55, 165, maybe minus 175. But once you get into that category of minus 200, he becomes super risky. So the benefit is he's the first fight on the card. Worst case scenario, he loses. You could rebuild from that point. But I just don't like the price tag. And as far as parlaying him to make it more of an incentive, get some better lines, get some more juice on there, it's like I think Kevin Natividad is easy to write off because literally I always judge it like this. 2 fights ago, okay? This is a year ago. You're winning a split decision over Andy Perez. Andy Perez, 7-7. Andy Perez is currently 7-11. Lost 3 fights after that. Not a top-level fighter. Not a very good fight. You see Natividad's just green. He's got to figure it out. He's not a top-level guy. Kelleher has fought top-level guys. Kelleher has submitted top guys. Kelleher's coming over a win over Hunter Azure, who's now him respectively a 2-1 favorite over tough guy Cole Smith. Cole Smith would beat Kevin Natividad's ass. And Azure is a 2-1 favorite over him. Brian Kelleher just picked up this nice big win. He's fought top guys. His experience will shine by a mile. He should absolutely go in there and smoke Natividad. But it's like, I'm not going to say questionable ring IQ, but it's like he puts himself in bad spots.
It's
and
results over analysis. If you watch the Kelleher fight, well, I mean, he was losing up until the point that he won.
Yeah, but other fights in his career, it's like you don't expect him to show up, and it's huge, man. The UFC debut against Iri Alcantara, right? He cashes as a plus 300 underdog. It's like, man, goddamn. Very next fight, he loses as a minus 220 favorite. Like, talk about UFC debut, cashes a huge underdog. Sophomore outing, loses a moderate-sized underdog. Or a favorite, sorry. It's just like it's the tale of 2 guys. Beat Henan Barao. Who expected that one? They give him the Lineker fight. It's like, fought a bad game plan. The Montel Jackson. Oh, we talked about experience. We talked about all these. Montel Jackson is very green. But Montel Jackson smokes him. Submits him with a Darce. Minute 40 into the round. Odie Osborne, just a contender series guy. Shouldn't have been in the UFC. Hunter Azure, contender series guy. Maybe shouldn't be in the UFC. I guess we'll see what Cole Smith has to say about that. Cody Stamen, legit, gets his ass beat. He's got to take advantage over contender series guys that aren't quite there. And if Natividad wasn't taking a short notice fight right now, he'd be fighting on the contender series. So Kelleher should win this fight. 220 seems a little bit much, but it seems reasonable, I suppose.
All right, let's get into the DraftKings breakdown for the program. Pat.
Yeah,
any questions?
Yeah, you guys kind of made it pretty straightforward. I guess my only question is your boy Soda Popinski at $8,600. You said like by decision, but he's gonna have what, like a bunch of takedowns? Like he's gonna score all right?
Yeah, he usually scores quite well. Let me actually just pull up the DraftKings app on my phone here.
Yeah, like they'll score him a decent amount of like ground and pound. Yeah, and stuff, I mean, even though he doesn't really do much ground and pound, and his takedowns, that's his key.
So he's got 4 UFC fights. Gareth McClellan, 121 points. He had 10 takedowns. Hector Urbina. I mean, these are bottom of the barrel guys.
Sure, for sure. But he's fighting a guy that's not exactly a world beater.
6 takedowns, 9 advances. Emil Weber-Meek. 6 takedowns, 8 advances. So he moves to like side control. He'll throw a little bit, you regain. He moves to side control, slaps you a little bit. He just kind of maintains.
He scored, but he scored 120 in his debut, 99.5. Let's just call it 100. Amik 101.5. So 100 points in all 3 of his outings, and then he loses. The fight he loses, he got caught. He got submitted real fast, didn't score nothing. And then you don't have a price on the Darren Stewart fight. because it happened in Cage
Would've
Warriors.
scored a
But he
lot.
would have smoked his ass,
And that was
man,
supposed to
believe you
take
me.
place on that UFC. We were picking Bartos
Yeah.
to do it, and then it ended up being the main event of the Cage Warriors card.
Right. So, I mean, you look at him at 8,600 and you think, geez, this is the kind of guy that's just got a ton of upside because he can get those takedowns over Muniz. Muniz is going to be there to fight back, but Bartos kind of does what Bartos does, and 86 is not the craziest price tag. Overeem, super risky. Again, Sakai's very durable. 8,800 just seems too much for my liking. Menifield, St. Preux, we don't have a price as of the recording of the show, so don't hate on us if you don't have anything right there. Carol Rosa, 8,500. Geez, this is another one like Fabinski. She might be flying a little bit on
High
the radar.
volume.
Yeah, man. Good upside. Kind of a higher mid-race player, but you can save money based on not spending too much. Michelle Pereira, if $8,200, he's gonna have to be some lineups. We're trying to take down GPP. So if we can have Rosa scores big flying under the radar, someone like Bartos can score big flying under the radar. Michelle Pereira can score big. He's cheap.
Slap my boy Romanov right into there as well.
Romanov right in there.
We can go anywhere from
Romanov
there.
right in there. And now someone like Jalen Turner would sneaky because he's only $7,200. If he pulls it off, great. But you've got so much money on the table, anyways.
Yeah, you can go a lot of directions
you can
with
kind
that kind of base.
You're right.
But you want to leave a bunch of money on the table this week. If there's only going to be like 9, 10 fights, like
there's only going to be 10
There's so many
fights.
dupes.
And there's going to be a lot of people that are thinking, I'm thinking the exact same way you are. Now, people can interchange and say, I don't think they take Eubanks, because even if Eubanks wins, low score. So she's not worth playing. Imadaev, yeah, man, he's fighting a guy that could just knock himself out. Like, yeah, he's live for
Or get just
8,000.
DQ'd in the first round.
Right. That counts as a TKO, doesn't it?
100%. That'd
Right,
be 90
so-
points. Even if he didn't throw a strike, 90 points.
It's just, if the guy does a backflip and his ACL blows right out, that's a TKO. So I'm just saying, at 8,000, he's actually got some upside too. And with Muniz at 7,600, even though I am so pro Bartos wins. Let's talk to Pogi Rob. I need a Bartos Fabinski shirt, 100%. But yeah, if Muniz is going to win, he's going to pay nice for 7,600 because he'll just catch him early with that submission. So some of those are some of your dog plays. Romanov to Lima, you want exposure to that. Romanov wins, going to score big. I can see him getting a second round TKO, tire him out, pound him with some ground and pound. Rogerio de Lima, if he wins,
First round knockout.
he's going to just knock him out smooth with the right hand. Hunter Azure, so many takedowns. Nice way to score points. Now in his debut, he doesn't throw any of them. So if you're just looking at DraftKings, you don't see that this guy's got those takedowns in his back pocket. If he goes
Based
to
on
that
him
here,
gassing last time,
he can
I'm
score
concerned
good.
that
Yes,
he may
and
not go to that
9,100
wrestling.
And 9,100 puts him the most expensive guy in the entire card. He's 210. He's listed as the second biggest favorite on the entire card behind Brian Kelleher. I don't know that's super warranted. But because we've got money on the table, and because he shit in a lot of pies last time, and because he didn't show that wrestling, I could see him being really low ownership. And he could score okay. I think I'd rather have him than Kelleher, even though Kelleher has got a lot of high upside here too. Kelleher seems a little more risque.
Kelleher, to my knowledge, doesn't have a DraftKings pricing as of the time of this recording. And same with like Menifield, St. Preux. I think they're going to probably slot in around 83.79. I mean, Menifield has first round knockout ability. OSP has first round submission ability. This could also, it's one of those fights. It's like it could very well end in that first round. But if these guys get out of the first round, it could be a real snail's pace, really low scoring.
Yeah, so we'll leave you with that. Also, it's only 10
Tough
fights, so there's a good chance that like William Knight from last night ends up on the card.
Yeah.
Like they might totally just throw somebody
Plus
on.
the cards
willingly.
in Vegas, so
took no
like a
damage.
couple
Took
people
no
are going to get
damage.
COVID-19. Will probably get pulled off of the card. 60%
sure.
of this card won't even happen on Saturday. Sounds about right.
Yeah, and
Let's go back to the
we
island.
have a sumo wrestler from Moldova cutting down to 265.
Can
like,
we go back?
No,
Yeah,
It's
we were
gonna- it
talking
could
about
be
it last
It
week.
could be a fun, greasy fight.
Well-
I like the fights that I do like have good lines. The biggest favorite's 210. What? Last week, everybody was minus 300. Everybody was 265. Everybody, they were all big favorites. Now you have no big favorites, but there seems like there's some okay spots.
Yeah,
Pokerod Perle.
hit him with the PRP.
Gonna go with Alistair Overeem. Gonna go with Alonzo at Menifield. And those are probably my two most less trustworthy ones. But then after that, we're going with Carol Rosa, Michelle Pereira, Jalen Turner, $100. Bartos Fabinski, Vivian Arroyo, Alexander Romanov, Hunter Azure, and Brian Kelleher. So two official dog picks on the card are going to be Jalen Turner and... Oh, I thought I had another one. No, maybe I just got one underdog on the card. Well, someone's going to shit my pie, and I hope it's the guys at the bottom. You know, you construed parlays, the ones you're not really sure about, you put them on the bottom.
You just load back up, right?
Who are the two faves that I can put together with this horse that we talked about on the horse racing show?
True.
My two favorite, Carol Rosa, and I'm going to say Michelle Pereira.
Wow.
I know.
Michelle Pereira
I want
is
to
on
say
your
Bartos.
confidence? Is your number
this
one
is,
confidence?
This is what's going to screw me, is that I like a lot Carol Rosa, Michelle Pereira, Bartos Fabinski, and Alexander Romanov.
Yeah, same here.
But the bookie's not a dumbass. Sometimes you can make him look bad, but in the long run, this guy's not a fucking idiot. They're priced low.
Mm-hmm.
If I hit those 4 in a 4-fight parlay, it is going to pay. But there's a reason why it's low. Because on one hand, geez, Eubanks is a BJJ world champion that could throw something off. Geez, Michelle Pereira is an absolute fool. Could just get himself disqualified or hurt himself or get knocked out. Why would you want to bet him? Bartos, man, Bartos is a one-trick pony. Really good at that one trick, though. Romanov, a 265-pound Moldovan sumo wrestler fighting in the UFC for the first time. You are out of your mind. But yes, sir, in fact, I am out of my mind. Those are my plays, and that's what I'm going with. And so I am looking forward to Saturday.
100%. All right. Thank you, Cody Saftic, breaking down the fights with me as always. Thank you to Pat, producer Pat Mayo behind the sticks, for all the fine work and keeping us in line. For Pat and Cody, I'm Paul saying goodbye and good luck.
Mayo experience! Experience!